Change. Sometimes we seek it, sometimes it's thrust upon us. For Carmine in The Bear, change was thrust upon him. For those of you who haven't seen the show, Carmine is a Chicago native and acclaimed chef, and he had to make a life-altering decision. He bid farewell to the world of fine dining and assumed control of his family's restaurant, all stemming from the tragic loss of his older brother Mikey. Now, without going too much into detail, you can just search online for the complete backstory. A true virtuoso, he had a rare and natural genius for his chosen field, resulting in global recognition and fame at a young age, and that included 3 prestigious Michelin Stars. But all of this came crashing down when he heard that Mikey had died and left the restaurant to him in his will. Carmine packed up and left New York to run his brother's restaurant. Along with his family and the brigade, they strived towards turning the Bear into a Michelin-starred restaurant. However, for most chefs, change is a choice and can be quite normal. Perhaps going from a restaurant to gain knowledge and experience from other talented head chefs. But there's another type of chef I'm fascinated by, those that want to run their own kitchens, be it in a restaurant, or nowadays a more interesting option can be to take over a struggling or empty pub. On my most recent podcast with Chef Ben Watson, he'd taken on exactly this challenge, going from Sous Chef at the 3-star Core by Clare Smith to running his own pub near the stunning Henley on Thames. From this conversation, so much of the storyline of The Bear came back to me about why change happens, especially in an industry that's fast-moving and really dynamic, and how we all have different relationships with risk. In the podcast, we talked about the shock and move from a brigade of 20 to 30 chefs to being just him, why he wanted the challenge, successes and failures, lessons learned, and the visions and goals for the future, and perhaps our stars on the horizon for him too. So in this video, we'll find out why Ben chose to leave a 3-star, just like in The Bear, and strive to create something great himself. And if you stick around to the end, I'll link to another video where you can watch Ben talk about and demo how he designs and plates these wonderful dishes. So you've been at the Golden Ball for about a year. Mm-hmm. What I'm fascinated in is when you left Core by Clare Smith a year ago. Mm-hmm. What's it been like moving to and becoming your own boss and going from a 3-star place to a pub? How's that been for you?
It's been a really interesting change. I probably should say that I took, in between Core and here, I actually did a little stint as a private chef as well. That also was an extremely different experience to anything to do with a restaurant or a pub and stuff. But I'd say that kind of helped me in a little way because I was doing everything myself there as well. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
So
it's a little bit of a baby step.
It was a little bit. Yeah, no, it was because it wasn't like going from working with a brigade of 20 plus chefs to them being sort of me in a pot wash overnight. It wasn't quite as sort of dramatic as that. So I had that kind of stepping stone in the middle, but it's obviously so far removed from restaurant service. Yeah. It's you can't really compare it. But at least there I was sort of planning menus. I was plating up dishes for them that was for the first time, dishes from my own head.
Yep.
As far as opposed to following repertoires and something that someone else had instructed you on how to plate.
Yeah.
So that really helped me because that is an enormous difference, obviously, from being part of a larger sort of machine to being on your own where everything is on your head and every decision that you make affects you and in my case obviously my family because we all live here and my wife's runs the front of house.
And was that a challenge you really wanted?
Yeah, it was. I think I got to the point in life where I thought I'm going to be a dad.
Sobering, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You feel sort of, I don't know, I had this really strange sort of moment where I thought I don't really want to have someone sort of not bossing you around, but someone above you that's kind of putting pressure on you to do things that maybe you don't want to do or you sort of not that fulfilled by doing. Yeah. And I just thought that was a good point to be I'm going to be a dad. How about we do this? Something that me and my wife always wanted to do was run our own place.
Yeah.
Just felt like the time was right. So I guess it's like having a child. There's no right or wrong time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But you'll know when it's the right time.
But I think having the strength to know what you want and then actually go out and to achieve it is really powerful because not everyone does it. In my own experience, I was in corporate for 15 years before doing this, and you could tell people that were very comfortable in that environment, as in getting their safe paycheck every day and pension and all that kind of stuff, and that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But for me, I was kind of wanted to do a little bit more and have that control over my own life and my own destiny and hopefully my own successes and failures.
Yeah.
Rather than have it coming from above. So No, I absolutely get that.
I think you need people like that as well, don't you? At the end of the day, I mean,
Yes, you do.
Not everyone can be like, okay, I want to go and run my own place, I want to run my own business, because then that would be chaos. But I was the same as you in that aspect. I wasn't really comfortable, like just staying that, as you say, like comfortable paycheck.
Yeah,
the money would have been better. Much less stress, much less pressure. Oh, what am I doing? But at the end of the day, when you're doing everything by yourself, your successes are that much greater.
Yeah.
Your failures, yes, are also that much greater. But
opportunities, Ben. There are opportunities. Opportunities to learn.
No, it's been one big interesting opportunity this first year. So,
And what would you say the biggest thing that you've learned is from going from 3-star to this and being jack of all trades, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say is that I'm really happy that I did go down that route, because I think that, it's a lot of people I've seen that they come out of that environment and they kind of speak negatively of like how it is, and like I wouldn't lie to anyone and say it's hard. Like there are going to be times where you're probably going to think about like, what am I doing? Like this is super hard. This isn't what I kind of necessarily signed up for. I don't know, but stick with it and it will pay dividends in the end, because the skill set and the tools that you have from spending years in those environments, no matter what you want to do, whether it's like flip burgers or fish and chips, you're going to do that like in the best way possible. Or like with us, what we're doing here, I suppose you call it like modern British. I know that's a bit of a umbrella term I don't really like, but that's probably what would get described as. The food that we're doing is much more simple than it was at core Restaurant Gordon Ramsay, but the elements and the sort of fundamentals are all there. It's all about using the best ingredients. Don't manipulate them too much. Let the flavours sort of speak for themselves. And you can't really go too wrong with that. Obviously you need a little bit of like personal flair and expression, because you don't want to be like a carbon copy of somewhere you've worked. But I would say that like my biggest takeaway from that is like, I'm so glad that I did that, because whether or not you enjoy it for the entire time, you got to put in the groundwork. And then when you're here and you're like designing menus, or you're thinking about how you're going to put something together, it's a lot easier. So like you've seen a lot, you've learned a lot, and you've put in the work. It's not like you've been cooking for a year and you think, I'm going to go run my own business now because I've read this and that. But like people do that and people make success of that, but for me, it was about building up the sort of like a library almost,
It's such a solid foundation as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the fact that you've got both pillars as well with your wife, front of house, loads of experience, you in the kitchen, loads of experience. I mean, you're ahead of the game already, aren't you? Really?
Yeah.
I would think of anybody looking to start a new business in the food sector, especially at the moment where it's already hard enough, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Essential, I would say, at the moment. If you're like husband and wife team, if one of you can watch what's going on in the front, one of you watch what's going on in the back, and literally be everywhere, because obviously together we have the same vision. Then whenever something goes right or wrong, we know that at least that we're pushing for the same goal, and there's no one else to blame. So I would say that's kind of essential at the moment. But especially if you're like us and you're running somewhere with like less staff and a small team, it kind of it makes sense for us.
So going back to, because you mentioned something I was going to pick up on a second ago, is you talked about the vision and the goal for this place. So what is the vision and goal for this place? What do you want to either get it to? Do you want to achieve certain accolades or anything like that? Or is it, again, be happy, successful business?
Yeah, I've always, like, personally, even though I've worked in like Michelin Star restaurants for a long time, it wasn't like the be all and end all for me here. I want to have like a busy, successful restaurant, like more than anything else, where we do food that I'm happy serving. People are happy eating. Probably like the main thing. A healthy business, because you can have a Michelin star and
no one comes in
dead. And what's the point? I mean, at the end of the day, like we're running a business, which is, it's not all about making money at all, because there are easier ways to make money. It's about building something that's that makes sense, that we can hopefully get something out of ourselves as well. You know, like if we can make enough money to like buy a house or something out of it, or you know, send Lily to a good school, or you know, these sort of things. Like that's important for me. I do have like, you know, I'm not going to change my fundamental view on like food and cooking and stuff as well. So I do want to create a restaurant where people go like, oh, that's like really good food, and that's, you know, hopefully can say like, oh, that's some of the best food in that area. And you know, when we do get in any kind of guides, or we get any mentions, like we managed to get in the Michelin guides like last month, which was kind of like a quiet goal for me. I was like, I just want to get in the guide in the first year, because then what it is more than anything else for me at the moment is free advertising tool. And we've already, so it went live on their sort of website a couple of weeks ago. We've already had people coming and being like, oh, if you just go on the Michelin app and you search Henley on Thames, like, this is the first place that comes up. And it's like, okay, that's great. Like,
how does that work? They literally just come in.
So
is it like stars?
You contact them, I think, or I didn't have to, but I wanted to.
Okay.
After about 6 months, I just sent them an email saying like, just so you know, I've taken over this, like, you know, this place.
Yep.
I can't remember if they ask you for like a copy of your CV or like a menu, or maybe just a link to your website. And they'll say, okay, we'll endeavour to like send someone along in the next year or so.
Yep.
And then, so the first step's obviously you're in the guide.
Yep.
And then they do their sort of like tiers of like bib gourmand, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, that sort of thing. So I don't expect to get anything like that.
Yeah.
But
just to be in.
Just to be in the guide, I think that was it's a nice thing. It kind of just, not like it sets you apart, but it just puts you in like a slightly different lane, I would say. So people, hopefully when they see that, I mean, the expectation is raised, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, there'll be people that will probably come in and be like, this is fitting. And they, you know, they have this, a lot of people have an automatic assumption of like, oh, you're in the Michelin guide, that means you're going to have like tablecloths and like, you know, waiters and in suits and all this, that and the other. And it's not really the case anymore, but it's still, I'm still proud of it. I mean, it's still a good achievement, I think, for us to have done that. So.
Well, definitely, and it's the first rung on the ladder, as you say. You know, and if it's not the reason for doing, it's just a nice to have.
Yeah, it's not, you know, been in places where that's literally like the be all and end all, and that is because obviously with stars come business. Like it's not just an ego trip. It's like it's a business kind of thing as well, which is good for you because again it's free and it puts you on a map that people kind of still respect. I think certain people. So you know it does make sense, but I didn't want us to be like, okay, like I'm never going to say we need to put that on the menu because that's going to like get us a Michelin star, or we have to do like just that format of menu. We can only do
so game the system almost.
You kind of can. Like I mean, if I said we're only going to do 10 covers a night and it's going to be one menu, and I'm not saying that's like easier or more difficult than what I'm doing. It's just that would be a way of almost assuring that everything that goes out is like super consistent, super like similar. I mean, like, because plenty of restaurants now do one sitting, one menu. That's like something that's come about. I guess it's always been around, but it seems to be like slightly more popular now because I think it's, you know, it's a way of like creating consistency without stressing over like 20 different things on your menu.
That's quite sensible.
Yeah, it is sensible. That's
very sensible.
If you have the clientele around you that will support that kind of business, I feel that here it's not the right place. So I probably wouldn't.
Would that be more like a London, like a big? Because I mean, Henley's clearly an affluent area, but it's just not enough volume of.
Probably not enough people. In London, there happens a lot. You know, like chefs' tables, experiences, like counters, that kind of thing. That probably just makes more sense as a bigger pool of people to sort of that like doing that kind of thing. Whereas here, I'm relying on quite a lot of repeat business as well, especially for our our lunchtime offer, where I try and change it a lot because people come back a lot. So it's kind of got to be this constant kind of changing of stuff. But that keeps it exciting for me and for the people that come. Some people come every week.
Yes.
You know, they come every week because something always changes. So
And let's face it, because it is just you, it's got to be exciting for you, doesn't it, really? Otherwise, go back to somebody else's kitchen.
Yeah. Like leave all the stress and shit behind.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching to the end of this video. As promised, you can find links to my plating video here with Ben, plus other conversations from my Food Envy podcast series with other talented chefs. If you've not seen the podcast, it's all about plate design and the visual side of food, so please feel free to check it out and get involved with the conversation. I hope you found this podcast with Ben as fascinating as I did, and I'll be releasing more from it over the coming weeks. I can certainly relate to the highs and lows, successes and failures, risks and rewards, but just like Ben, I wouldn't change it or go backwards. I'd love to hear your thoughts about anything in this video, and if you'd like me to discuss any other topics with the next chef in my podcast series, then let me know. Or just tell me about what you thought about the bear. Now, I absolutely loved it. My favourite characters were Richie and Fat. How about you? Let me know in the comments below.